Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 172 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyle, StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 3 days for just $1, and if you have a staff of 2 or more and you want to sign up as a group, we have a special membership offer for you, up to 50% off. Check it out at StrengthCoach.com. All right, I'm your host, Anthony Renna, and the show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. If you want to get in touch with me, shoot me an email to StrengthCoachPodcast@gmail.com. All right, today on the Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about some forum topics, including hypertrophy, start with the why, also his article, interval training, hit or miss. That and much more coming up on the Coach's Corner in a little while. For the Ask the Equipment Experts with Perform Better, Chris Poyer joins us to talk about Perform Better International, as well as the end of the big summer sale. For the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment, I have a Alan Cosgrove Classic. He's on to talk about finding out your 3 vital functions. Today, we have a special Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach. We have 2 coaches on. Sean Skahan, strength and conditioning coach now for BU Hockey, former Anaheim Ducks. He's on to talk about leaving the pro ranks of the NHL and the Anaheim Ducks and going back to work with college athletes at Boston University. I also have on Chris Chase, who did the opposite. He's the former assistant at USC. Now he's with the Atlanta Hawks. So basically, I have 2 coaches who've gone from college to pro and pro to college. I wanted to talk to them about their challenges of the transition and where they are now in their new situations. That and lots more coming up from coaches Skahan and Chase in a little while. For the Art of Coaching with Exo, Stefan Underwood is on to talk about a 3-part segment on fostering a coach-athlete relationship. This is the second segment, and he's going to talk about feedback and the different manners of timing for your feedback. And for the Functional Movement System segment, Brad Hartman is on to talk all about the jump rope. Gray considers that a self-limiting exercise, so Brad wanted to go over some different techniques and stances, etc. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Anthony. How are you? I'm actually sitting out on my back deck right now. It's about, I'd say it's 80 degrees. It's probably perfect right now, actually.
I got to say, we've had some really good weather lately. It's been nice. Yeah, trying to enjoy it. Coach, we had that discussion last time, pretty much the whole time, about the whole Start with the Why lecture. And so we actually had a couple forum threads, and I had Coach Dose on last time, and he was talking about hypertrophy phase. And so somebody started a thread called Hypertrophy Start with the Why, just asking, do we really need to have a hypertrophy phase? And it's gotten a ton of play. Talk to us a little bit about your thoughts about hypertrophy. I mean, we even posted an article that you did on T-Nation years back. We reposted it today. Talk about your thoughts on hypertrophy and where it belongs, and it's not as simple as we think.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is I don't really love the term when you're talking about phases because, one, hypertrophy in a non-drug using environment is extremely difficult to come by. So to simply think that, we have a first phase and we do 3 sets of 10 with a bunch of these exercises and we get some hypertrophy and that's why we do it, is probably complete BS. Because nobody probably gets any hypertrophy from that phase, from the 3 weeks. When you think that these bodybuilders, one of the things I've always talked about is kind of relates back to natural bodybuilding. Natural bodybuilders, non-drug using bodybuilders, are only gaining 5 or 6 or 7 pounds of muscle in a year when they're in a hypertrophy phase pretty much year round. So that's one part of it that you look at. Then you look at, I kind of alluded back, the old-time bodybuilders didn't do hypertrophy training. When you go back to the pre-Arnold, if you go to like Reg Park and some of these guys that were kind of in the pre-steroid era, they were very big on major muscle group exercises. They were really big on squats and bench presses and chin-ups. And there was not the same, what I always call, the Joe Weider bombing and blitzing kind of stuff. So I think it's a really complicated topic that people are trying to oversimplify. And I guess that I intentionally poked a little bit there and kept poking in terms of posting some articles, because I honestly think if you take some ectomorphic body structures, basketball players, tall, skinny guys, and you try to get them on a conventional hypertrophy routine, they'll probably get smaller. They'll probably lose muscle mass as opposed to gain it. And there's an awful lot of research. If you look, Jason Ferrugia used to write a column called Hard Gainer for, I can't think of the other, Men's Fitness. He did that for a long time. And there was a guy named Stuart McRobert. I linked to one of his articles that wrote for Ironman for a long time about hard gainers. And one of the things that everybody who talks about people who don't gain muscle easily is that they should do very low volume training, not very high volume training. So I think it runs in the face of the conventional wisdom, but I think the conventional wisdom has been so tainted by the drug thing that we don't really know what the truth actually is. We look at some people and think, oh yeah, this is how you get bigger. And I'm not so sure that's true.
Yeah, and you even were talking about, look, saying do a few more reps and a few more sets and you'll get bigger is simply a dream. And, same way about strength. More sets of low reps. Is it that easy? Why don't all our players bench press 400 pounds? Same thing with speed. Okay, do more sprints. You're like you said, I hope we're all smarter than this. Talk to us though about, because there was again semantics, and you were calling it an anatomical adaptation. Comment on that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that phase better. Sometimes we just call it the base phase, phase one. But I like anatomical adaptation probably better than any of the other names in terms of, I feel like that first phase, what some people are calling hypertrophy, we deliberately don't go high volume, particularly in week one, because you'll cripple somebody. We want some anatomical adaptation. I like that term because I think that's exactly what happened. We're going to give somebody 2 sets, usually 1 lighter set, 1 heavy set in that first week to get some anatomical adaptation, to get that feeling. I always tell everybody, if I did my job right the first week, you feel like you worked out. You kind of walk away and go, oh yeah, I'm a little sore. I worked out. Not, oh my God, I can't believe I just started again. And we'll have sometimes people who start goblet squatting or split squatting again who are crippled even from relatively low volumes and low loads from not having been in those movement patterns. So I much prefer the term anatomical adaptation to hypertrophy, because I think hypertrophy, as we talked about kind of in the first segment, it's just a little bit, I don't know. I mean, confusing is one. Deceptive might be another. It's just not that easy. I have some girls, it's really interesting, especially with our females. We just did a little case study with one of our female athletes, Casey Bellamy, who's been on 2 Olympic teams, going for a 3rd Olympic team. And we showed some of our younger girls, our U18 girls and our U22 girls, her progression over the last 5 years. In 5 years, she's gained 0 pounds. She weighed in 5 years to go at 142. She weighed in at 142. Her body fat has gone from 19 to 16, which means she's gained about 5 pounds of muscle in 5 years. But her strength has gone absolutely crazy. And if you saw her, and you've actually seen videos of her, even though you don't know it, she is a specimen. She looks absolutely perfect. But she hasn't gained size. And it's not like we haven't done hypertrophy phases and we haven't done higher volume stuff. We've done everything that you would think you wanted to do. And the good thing is, in the reverse order, that's a great selling point for our female athletes, because you think, hey, you can get really strong and you can be benching 135 for 5 and cleaning 135 and doing 5 chin-ups for 25 pounds and not gaining a pound. But when you look at it in the reverse light, for a male athlete, it's not that easy. And I think somebody, I forget who it was, somebody, maybe Sean Skahan, said on the thread, and I agree with them, we used to think it was good if our guys gained 5 pounds a year, our BU hockey guys, without their body fat increasing, if they gained 5 pounds a year, they'd gain 20 pounds during their career. So we bring a guy in at 170 and have him come out at 190. We would consider that to be a huge success. And yet people talk, oh, yeah, this guy gained this much weight, this guy gained this much weight. I don't think it's that easy, one, when it's not hypertrophy if your body fat's going up. And there's a big difference between natural hypertrophy and maybe not natural hypertrophy.
Yeah, and we also, I mean, let's be honest, you're talking about college kids as well, right? So they're kind of in that, they're primed to maybe gain that weight as well.
Right, and they should be super anabolic, really, at that point in time. The only people who are probably more anabolic are, I said, the best ones. And it's really funny now because Mark has been dying to work out. Now he's only 10, my son, but he really, he wants to go to the gym. So we're going in. Now, actually, I might throw some video up because I got a little video of him doing a front squat clean combo, learning to do cleans. But those are the ones where you might see more mass gain because they're really anabolic. I always said those guys, they're building bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look at any of our college kids, you're not building bone anymore. You're not getting taller. You're not anywhere near. So and this goes back kind of to that long-term athletic development thing. I do think there's something about training when you're in those really super anabolic periods that is very beneficial and very synergistic because your body's literally laying down tissue. You're making muscle. You're making bone. Things are getting longer. Things are getting bigger. There's a lot going on. And really, as you said, once you get a college kid, most of that's probably stopped. They've gone through puberty. They're shaving. They're probably at their peak height. And now you're going to actually try to build muscle where the body doesn't have that intent, which I believe is significantly more difficult and takes a lot more time.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Coach, you wanted me to post, we reposted interval training, hit or miss. It's an article you did, I think it was 2007, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Why did you want me to post that? Let's start with that. And then just talk about has anything really changed since then? I mean, this is, like I said, you said following article was based on a lecture, interval training done at the 2007 Perform Better Summits. Talk to us about why you wanted to post this and maybe if anything's changed a little bit.
Well, it was funny. Kevin Carr just did a lecture at our staff meeting on conditioning for the MyZone system, talking to people about MyZone and about how we want to use the MyZone system with heart rate monitoring and all that stuff. And then I just realized, wow, I covered a lot of this stuff. And then I thought, God, it's the same thing I say all the time. I have never covered any of this with our current staff because people were so, I think they thought it was so informative. And I thought, wow, this should be really repetitive. But one of the things I realized is, again, whoever, let's just pick Christina Jennings, who's 23 years old. She probably wasn't reading my stuff when she was 16. So as a result,
no, I doubt it.
She probably doesn't even know I ever wrote that article. And so I really went in, and when I edited, all I really did was edit. I changed Airdyne to Assault, and I added in a little bit about the Assault bike. I actually went in. You'd be proud of me. I went into it on the site and did the editing in the control panel, which shows I actually know how to get there.
Wow, I'm proud.
Yeah.
A tear could be coming out of my eye.
But what I realized is that I didn't have to change very much because, no, I don't think it has changed a whole lot in terms of the idea of rest to work ratios. And I mean, I was writing then about heart rate monitoring. People went back and read it and about doing interval training based on heart rate. And I think we did that for a while. And then I think maybe out of laziness, we got away from it. And we went back to more kind of said, okay, we'll do 2-to-1. You started looking at people. Joel Jameson really, I think, got a lot of people more excited about it, maybe a different take on things. And that's kind of what Kevin based his article on. But I was like, I sent that article to everybody else on staff, and I said, I got to really repost this. I got to go edit it and repost it on Strength Coach. So that's why I did it. And I need to look for more of those and look and see, are there ones that need to be edited and updated? And that's why I looked at that hypertrophy one. And when I read the hypertrophy one, I thought, now I pretty much agree with what I wrote in that particular time.
Okay.
So it's good. I haven't written as much probably as I wrote. I don't know why. That was a really good time for me. And I was writing a lot, and sometimes I feel like some days I feel like I've run out of things to say, but that's probably because I'm getting this, I think I said on one of the other podcasts, the new functional training for sports, because it's no longer going to be considered a second edition, but I think it's going to be considered a new book.
Yeah.
And that's almost done.
Okay. Well,
so that's where my writing energy has been going there.
All right, good. Well, Coach, just to say on the interval thing, I mean, this reminded me, and I hadn't done it in a while, and I remember I really love this concept of, I remember when you first were talking about it, changing the rest ratio. as we move forward. So interval 1, the example you gave was work 60 seconds, rest 45, work 60, rest 60, work 60, rest 75. And then you were talking about obviously doing it with, even on the ice, I remember talking about, okay, no, you can't go again until your heart rate gets to a certain level.
Yep, and that's exactly how it was. And what we realized is that with our heart rate monitoring, that's how it works. Because it's interesting, even with our MyZone system, I'll do 20-10 intervals on the assault bike. And it's really interesting watching even though the first interval is hard, our heart rate doesn't elevate very much. And then in the 10 seconds, and you can kind of see it going up until you kind of hit that spot where, okay, this is about where I wanted to be. Whereas if I went 20-40 like that, it might take me forever to get my heart rate up. I'd have to really get a really kind of extensive warm-up in which I got my heart rate up, because I wouldn't get it from those, 2-to-1 rest-to-work ratio. Intervals would not work initially. And that's where, like I said, that idea of kind of stair-stepping the rest up from 0.75 to 1 to 1.25 to 1.5 kind of thing really does work. So I guess the big thing was, again, for everybody, for our staff and for everybody else, was to get people thinking about this whole concept, because I think there's been a lot of talk about, cardiac output, and Kevin was talking about that cardiac output, aerobic base. But, I just started realizing, okay, these guys don't even probably know that target heart rate is flawed. They don't even know Carbonin formula, unless they had it. Unless they was someone who really paid attention in ex-phys in college, they might not think any of this stuff really even matters. And thinking about heart rate reserve and why, we were talking about Kevin's got one of his clients, he did a really good job in his presentation, but one of his clients basically is doing cardiac output work while he's lifting. And Kevin actually has to slow him down, because once he put the heart rate monitor on this guy and started looking at the MyZone, if he does, let's just say, if he does a set of 10 split squats on each leg, sometimes he'll be up to 150 beats a minute. And then Kevin will have to deliberately slow him down and let him walk around a little bit and let his heart rate settle back down into that 100, 110, and then have him do his next exercise. And so I think we're trying to get everybody to realize that heart rate monitoring, as much as people, I think when anything becomes good, it becomes bad, because people start saying, oh, it's not the be-all, end-all. But it's pretty damn close in terms of it's the best data we have available to help monitor workouts.
Yeah, and like you said, I think when it's good, good things always become bad. That's interesting. That's a great quote. But, one thing I will say I'm happy about, I think with, I was thinking when you said, not a lot's changed within this. And I think really the only thing that changes is a certain perception, because I think, it's going back to the whole pendulum thing. And I think there was a time there, remember, and one thing I'm really glad about is this whole Tabata. Remember the Tabata, just the pendulum was way over there, and everybody was really confusing what a Tabata was. Everybody was calling it. And, it's in group fitness now. They even have like Tabata classes, which whatever that is. But that's been the good thing. I think that's why I think, when you look at some of these older articles that you have, it's kind of come back full circle, and people aren't reacting to it so crazily, and it still makes sense.
Yeah, I like it. Like I said, they have, Tabata boot camp, Tabata squats, Tabata this, Tabata that. The reality is, Tabata, and I've said this over and over again, Tabata was the only way you can do true Tabata workouts is on a stationary bike. And even then, when you start talking about 170% of VO2 max, I forget what that is in the MAS philosophy, like the max aerobic speed, but it's at least 120% of your max aerobic speed. And it is hard to, you got to really go on those 20s. And 4 minutes is a really long time when you're doing it like that.
You know what? I do some conditioning work sometimes with people, and a lot of times because they're golfers, I like my sets to 1-to-3 ratio. So I go hard for 5 seconds. So I want to think of it like as these short bursts of power. But when I want to beat them up a little bit, I do 10 seconds on, 20 seconds off. I can't even imagine giving these people 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for 4 minutes. Because for them, from my demographic, the 10-20 is super hard. God forbid. Like a lot of times I'll do 6 reps, so 3 minutes. But 4 minutes at 2010, I mean, for the average person, it's a joke.
Yeah, no, and we do it a lot on the bike with the kids, with my daughter's team, with the Olympic girls, and I even started doing it with some of my, a couple of my personal training clients. But a lot of times we'll do, because the Assault has the 2010 pre-programmed in and a 10:20, and sometimes that'll be just our workout. We'll do 10 minutes instead of 2010, rest for a minute or two, set of 10:20, and you get off. You feel like I got a workout.
Yeah,
you're only on there for 10 minutes, so
absolutely.
It works.
All right. Good stuff, Coach. Thanks for coming on today, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks.
All right, now it's time for the Ask the Equipment Experts, and I'm here with Chris Poirier. Chris, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, Anthony, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, we had to get this in because you're heading to Germany, and I was just thinking, we were talking before, is, we do have a pretty big international audience, and I know because over the last few years, we had gotten a lot of requests, really on Strength Coach, even for just some different. How do we get some products? How do we get some speakers? And I know you've sent a lot of people. Coach Boyle has done a lot of the same through the CS, certified functional strength coach, etc. Done some lectures there. So just give us a quick rundown of how people maybe in Europe can order, because I think a lot of people might not understand that they really they would think, oh, shipping's going to be too much. So people in Europe can still order from Perform Better.
Oh, definitely. In fact, actually, I'm going over. I'm leaving tonight to go to Germany to have meetings with our German partner, Perform Better Germany, and they have PB Germany is our largest partner. They warehouse. They have over $2 million in inventory, Perform Better products in inventory. So they usually can ship anywhere in Europe within 3 to 4 business days. So definitely utilize Perform Better Germany. We also have a partner in China. They've been with us for about 4 years now. We have another partner that we just started last March in Japan. We have one in Australia, New Zealand that started up in July. And our newest partner will be starting up the first of the year in the Middle East in Dubai. So, we have some really good partners that obviously believe in everything that we do, but more importantly, they believe in education. And that's, where, Mike has been over to Germany and to China a couple times and has spoken over there. So he's a big reason why you're probably getting a lot of your presence, your international presence from these Perform Better affiliates that are throughout the world.
Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So at least our across the pond audience now knows that they can get in on some of this. Well, let's talk about, some of the stuff people can get over here right now. You guys got going your end of the summer sale. And the reason why I'm mentioning is because basically this is probably the last episode that we will mention it, because it ends on September 30th, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're down to our last week here, and definitely there's been, it's been probably one of our best summer sales that we've ever had since we started the summer sales about 8 years ago. But a lot of great products on there, a lot of great pricing. There's, I think 2/3 of the products also come with free freight on combined orders over $50. So, there's some really great deals on there, and I would definitely recommend that everyone take advantage of that too, because there's some really good bargains going on.
Absolutely. So just a reminder for everybody, that is coming up. That is ending very quickly, so take advantage of that. Aaron and I have talked about it. You and I have talked about it. And Chris, we'll let you go, but we just want to mention too, October is a pretty good month for the Perform Better Functional Training Institute, so I'll encourage everybody to go to performbetter.com and check that out. You got some good stuff coming up, including DVRT and a couple of other really good seminars. So, Chris, enjoy your trip to Germany. Have fun. It is kind of funny that you're planning it around Oktoberfest, but
that's all part of the meeting.
All right, Chris, enjoy and a safe trip.
Great. Thanks, Anthony, and thanks for having me on.
All right, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach. And I have on today Sean Skahan, who's no stranger to the show. Sean is the former strength and conditioning coach for the Anaheim Ducks. He has a Stanley Cup ring. I've actually seen his name on the Stanley Cup at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Sean, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Anthony. It's always a pleasure to come on.
All right, well, you know what? This is kind of a unique show today. I did say former strength and conditioning coach for the Anaheim Ducks. You are now the strength and conditioning coach for Boston University hockey. So while you are in the same sport, this is a completely different animal, and I wanted to get you on to talk about some of the challenges of the new job and maybe what's different about the situation. I know your schedule is completely different. You had to uproot your family, although you are from the Northeast in the Boston area. The kids were born out in California, and so that's going to be a transition for them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and maybe how the approach to training the college athlete is different. So talk to us about some of the challenges you've faced already, kind of, this summer coming across the America.
It's been awesome so far. Pretty much got here in mid-August, and we actually drove across the country. And it's a change. It's a change in the positive direction for me. I love this city. Obviously, like you said, I'm from here, and I actually lived here with my wife. Then fiance before we moved out to Anaheim when I worked at Boston College. So now I kind of made it full circle with 13 years in the pros and now coming back to college hockey. Where it's a big difference is, I think, is that, you have 26 guys who will do whatever you tell them to do. And that's a big change for me. You're managing them. Basically, you're training them. I'm a strength and conditioning coach again. I feel like I am in a situation where, I am in charge of what these guys are doing all the time. I think in the pro environment, especially in the off season, you have no control over what's going on in the off season. You don't necessarily have any, not necessarily control, but you don't know what's going on sometimes. Especially with your European players or guys who, are in other parts of the country or the world. You don't know what they're doing. All your expectations are to come in, and sometimes you're hoping that they come in shape and, and they test out well and you have a good season. But for me, I think it's been positive because I have 26 young men who look to me to utilize my experience and knowing what it takes to get to the NHL. A lot of our guys have been drafted by NHL clubs. And, I think going back, looking at, young 18-year-old kids that I work with in Anaheim over the years that have become everyday superstars, I think that experience holds a lot of value, and I think these young men appreciate that. And, that's what I'm really looking forward to doing.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that because as much as, obviously Coach Boyle was there for a long time and had, just as much, strength and conditioning experience as anybody else. He was at the Bruins, and it was really a different time, when he was with the Bruins. And things have certainly changed a lot. And Anthony Miranda, who's certainly worked with, who your predecessor, who worked with plenty of pro athletes even before he got to BU. This is completely different because this is what you've been doing for the last 12 years with these guys. So I didn't even really think about that, so much as, okay, cool. We got a guy who's really just getting out of the league and has been working with, we talked about it before. You work with guys in rookie camps, and you've worked with, really, not just the guys on the Ducks specifically at the moment, but up-and-coming guys, et cetera, et cetera. So it's good stuff. I mean, the schedule has got, and I don't want to say easier. I know nothing is ever really easier, but this has got to be a little bit easier for you because it, I guess Monday through Thursday for the most part, you're just, you got these guys. And whereas, you didn't know what the heck was going on with, you had different schedules. I know you had different coaches in Anaheim. So with this, it's got to be nice to kind of know what your schedule is.
That's the thing that was crazy too. When I was given a printed copy of our schedule, I was so used to seeing 82 games on the schedule, and then I see this schedule. I'm kind of like, where's the rest of the games? It's like that's a big change. And yeah, like I said before, I get to become a strength and conditioning coach again, rather than being kind of this get workouts in when we can, kind of recovery coach over and over again for 82 games. I'm looking forward to having, situations where we can train on a Monday and Wednesday and not play till Friday, Saturday, having that repeat itself over and over again, which will allow me to kind of make a bigger impact onto this team, as it would in the pro environment, on a daily basis, just because of where we were in the West Coast. We were traveling, we were playing every other night. You kind of find yourself like thinking like, what am I doing sometimes? I'm just trying to manage stress, and hopefully these guys don't get hurt because of the volume of practices these guys were in and games they were playing. And then it got to be very frustrating for me at one point. And, I think in this situation here, it's a controlled environment where I have complete ability to communicate with David Quinn, our head coach, and talk about backing off on days or ramping up practices, stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, and it's got to be a little bit easier. Now, again, I hate to use the word easier, but it's got to be a little bit easier in terms of, you don't have a minor league team. You don't have rookie, prospects that you're kind of, what are these guys doing? What are these prospects doing who are in juniors, guys who are in college, et cetera, et cetera. And now you can really focus on these guys. So it's definitely, I would assume, from the perspective of, NHL is also a business, whereas this is like, okay, we got our 26 guys, and we're gonna work on these guys. We're gonna make them better athletes and better human beings. That's got to be a little bit more refreshing as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think like I alluded to before, like you're hoping that the guys show up in camp in shape. And that could be the junior hockey players who are years away from playing in the NHL, or the NHL veterans. You don't really know how they're going to come in. You can only call so many trainers, and then you add in the unrestricted free agents that come aboard, or you make a trade. But you really don't know their backgrounds. Here you can kind of form and develop young kids. I think what's great about college hockey is that, the coach can say, listen, you're all here for, summer session 1 or 2. And you're all here, and you're all training during the summer. And I think that's pretty neat, because you're there working with these guys throughout the very important months of training, to establish that kind of foundation for them. So yeah, that's what's kind of neat about this. BU is a really good program. Obviously, with Mike there for so many years, I always looked at this job as like, that's one of the premier college hockey jobs in the country. And, when I think about guys who are doing a great job in college hockey, like, Devin and Cal and Burjesh and some other guys that are out there, I feel pretty fortunate to be in that kind of company now. I really think that some of the better hockey strength and conditioning coaches are actually in college hockey than they are in the pros sometimes. So I have a lot of respect for what these guys are doing in terms of strength and conditioning, because I think sometimes we get away from being strength and conditioning coaches in the National Hockey League and are more, like I said, recovery and stress managers more, where you can be a stress manager and a strength and conditioning coach more in college, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you when you first get in, just take us through what your approach was going to be. Did you want to just say, okay, I want to meet with the team. I want to do some sessions. How do you do program design? Did you assess? Can you just take us through your first first 2 weeks of the gig?
Yeah, I watched them complete the rest of the summer program that was already in place. We had an intern, Jordan, who was a really good coach. He kind of just ran the workouts while I kind of just observed. I observed and got to talk to the guys a little bit and got to know them. And then when it was back to, when they went home for the summer sessions and they came back, I was ready to go from the get-go. I took over, hey, okay, this is my program. I ran testing, and then we are into our preseason phase right now. And I think we play our first exhibition game next Saturday, and it's been great so far.
Very cool. Did you call anybody for, did you call any of the Devons or the Brajesh or Mike or Anthony or anybody?
You know what? I was at Boston College, 13 years ago, and I did have an idea of how I wanted to do things. But I talked to a few guys. I had lunch with Devin, and I ran some stuff by Brajesh as well. And trying to, because I was telling them all, I haven't written a periodized program in over 13 years. I haven't, I haven't tested a 1RM max in over 13 years. I had to kind of go through that again as a strength coach, and that was kind of interesting, but fun at the same time. It's fun to be kind of designing programs and adding percentages of 1RM, what you want them to be at, and then expecting the guys to hit their weights, and that's been fun. And it's going to be a challenge, I think, just because of the fact that, I have to appreciate the fact that these kids are students first. Their life isn't hockey. But I think that's a breath of fresh air for me and also my family. Yeah,
very cool. It's fun to see the how the kids have adjusted. I see it through Facebook and see how the kids have adjusted and they're playing hockey and they're going to be little Bruins now, not no more Ducks. So that's got to be hard for them to to kind of.
Yeah, I think my youngest one thinks we're on vacation here and going back to California pretty soon. But my oldest one is now in. It was important for me to get him in a very similar hockey situation to what he was doing before, and now he's on a great team in the Boston Junior Terriers. Really competitive league for him, and he's having fun with that, meeting new friends and competing on the ice with them every practice or games. And, we're having fun so far. And, I'm getting used to the traffic, and I'm hoping that the winter isn't as bad as last year. So, that's going to be a big transition for them. Well, my wife is from Minnesota, but for the kids, it's going to be a little different.
Yeah. Well, this is. I was really excited when I heard the news too that you're coming back here. Although I always loved kind of when I was in Anaheim being able to go to some of the Ducks games. But I'm pretty excited about this. And my wife went to BU, and we always go to at least we'll be there for the Cornell game over Thanksgiving weekend. So she is expecting big things from you as well. So I'll tell you. So,
yeah.
But Sean, congratulations on this. Really excited for you, and appreciate you coming on and kind of talking about so far. I know it's early, but I wanted to get you on during this early time, as we're going to get Chris on as well during this early time and making this new transition. So good luck with everything, and thanks again so much for coming on.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys after Thanksgiving there. At least we can continue our visits in New York City.
Absolutely.
So awesome. Thanks for your time, man.
All right, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach Part 2. Today I have, we just had Sean Skahan on, and now we're going to have Chris Chase on. And Chris was recently at the University of Southern California. He was an assistant strength and conditioning coach there. He was previously at the University of Rhode Island. He was at Springfield College in Mass. He was at American International in Mass. He's got his bachelor's degree in exercise science from UConn and a master's degree from Springfield. And he just took a position with the Atlanta Hawks. So he is an athletic performance coach there, and Atlanta Hawks have a whole new performance team, and Art Horn is on that team as well. So I wanted to get Chris on because, as we just talked to Sean's going from the professional ranks into the college world, and Chris is kind of doing the opposite. So Chris, thanks so much for coming on today.
Anthony, appreciate you having me on, man.
All right, let's start out with Well, first of all, how's it going so far? It's got to be a little crazy. You just started in August. It's you've been there roughly a month. Is it overwhelming? What's going on?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think in a number of ways. Not only because the new staff, the structure of the staff, I think is fairly new, especially in the NBA. Really, I think across all sports, and not only that, kind of getting us all on the same page, making the transition for some of us, not only from college to the professional ranks, but also just continuity amongst the staff, and then. I think, as well with the Hawks specifically, we're building a new facility from a logistics standpoint, figuring out travel, flights, establishing a nutrition program, establishing and implementing our philosophy when it comes to strength and conditioning, coming together as a staff, determining, what technology we're going to implement, what testing we're going to implement. So it has been hectic, but in really a phenomenal way. So it is very exciting. I mean, of course, long days over the past, say, month and a half for all of us, but everything has been great because I think there's a real conscious effort by the front office at the Hawks to really, put an emphasis on athletic performance or on this staff and really put the resources or provide the resources for us to have success.
Very cool. Now you have, just looking at the press release, you have an executive director of player performance. You have a head athletic trainer, Art Horn. You have a director of rehabilitation, and you have an athletic performance coach, which is you. You're going to join an assistant athletic trainer, Scotty Parker, on the staff. Talk to me about how this might be different, or how this structure might be a little different for you guys.
Yeah, what's great about it is that we've all been friends and over the years kind of talked with and had a relationship with Art Horn, obviously because of things that he did at Northeastern and with BSMPG, and then being really close friends with Mike Roncarati, and because of that, KK Lyles, who was our director of player health and performance, and for all of us to be able to come together has been really huge. Now, in coming together, the plan was we have these conversations with each other. I think all of us as strength and conditioning coaches, where there's not a lot of continuity sometime amongst all members of the support staff. I think the fashionable term we like to use nowadays is we're all in these silos, and how do we break out of that and really come together and be on the same page? And it really is a lot of lip service sometimes, I think, to be very blunt about it and to be real. And what we wanted to be able to do with this unique situation is to break down those barriers and really have a real situation where everybody ends up being on the same page. And I think this is really a model to be followed, hopefully, as things move along. I think it's unique. I don't think it can happen in every place. If I use an example, I think of a lot of struggles strength and conditioning coaches have, especially in college, is that you're dealing with these high volume of athletes, and we're just trying to make things happen from the day to day because kids have classes and because kids have to manage the tutoring and the practicing, and you have, as a collegiate strength and conditioning coach, maybe 4 or 5, or heaven forbid you have somewhere, upwards of 10 teams and all these athletes that you have to take care of. And then you sit back at the end of the day and you're like, man, I wish I was on the same page with our athletic trainer, and we missed that today with this one kid who was injured, and they came into a training session with me, and it ended up not being really worth it for that kid for the 60 minutes just because those messages don't get to where they need to go, and we can't have a meeting every day, and the philosophy may be different amongst people. So in saying all that, all of us have that mindset that have come together on this staff, and we make it that point of emphasis to make sure that doesn't happen with us. And I don't think it's an easy thing, but it is easier, I think, with us, because thankfully we are very much on the same page already philosophically. There is the utmost respect for amongst all of us for our knowledge, where we're coming from, respect for each of our pieces of the pie and what we're bringing with our scopes of practices, and how we can blend everything together. So I think it is very much a challenge, but it is, I think, a model we've all really wanted throughout our careers, and we've all talked about even before we got to this staff. And then for us to be able to come together is really unique and I think really special.
Yeah, and I think an advantage that you guys have is that you're going in here together, because I think sometimes the problem is that a strength coach comes on and he might have different ideas about certain things, but the guys have been in the system for a while. They don't want to hear it, or there might be certain hierarchies where they weren't, they might not have the respect of a strength and conditioning coach that, maybe an Art Horn would, or you know what I mean? So right. I think that's where you guys have an advantage, and it's great. And I got to say, good for you to be honest and talk about how a lot of that is lip service. Because, when I first started on the Titleist program in 2006, I think the thing that really resonated with me, and anybody who listens to this knows I've said this before, is the idea that they were talking about building your team and that they were going to have a medical pro, a fitness pro, and a teaching pro. And it wasn't all about one. It was about the team, because one wasn't more important than the other. And I think, even Tom House, who was a major league pitcher, and he was a major league pitcher coach, and he still is, I remember him saying he was embarrassed that golf was ahead of baseball in strength and conditioning. And this is 2006 or 2007. But I still think it's, the business is still new, the golf fitness business. And it is still a lot of lip service, and there is still a lot of golf pros who don't believe in it, and they don't care about it, or they don't want to work with anybody because they're selfish. So I agree with you. It is a lot of lip service, but it's great that you guys are going in there as a unit. I think you have a step ahead of everybody. So it's going to be great to kind of watch you guys and see how over the next few, really not just a few months, but the next couple of years, how this turns out. So talk to me about, you just talked about the schedule or really the volume of athletes that you have, and it's funny because having Sean on, Sean's really only got the hockey team right now. So that's kind of cool. Talk to us a little bit about your last job at USC and how many teams you worked with and how this is going to be a lot different.
Yeah, I think, at USC I had 4 teams, men's tennis, baseball, men's and women's track, women's sand volleyball. And as time went along, and I'll always talk about USC so fondly because it's going to go down as the greatest experience in my strength and conditioning career, because it was such a learning experience over the 3 years. And you learned, I came in with a certain mindset, and I certainly left with something totally different. Not that that's a bad thing. I think it was a great thing. I don't think it was bad in the beginning, but the approach moved towards what I think to be a professional model as time went along. And I think as college strength and conditioning gets better and better as far as quality, as far as personnel, as far as mindsets, I really do think the difference people think of as professional versus college, it's not that difference is going to be, it's going to be closer and closer as time goes along as far as philosophy. So I don't think there is much difference between the two. And I say that because towards the end of my time at USC, we really had that mindset of what is best for each athlete. And I know that sounds like a novel concept, but there was really an acceptance of there's a conversation that needs to be had with this athlete. There is education, as I talk about all the time, that the athlete needs to have when it comes to their own practice, when it comes to training. And it wasn't about me writing up cards that were, what I talk about all the time, I think with a lot of strength coaches, remember who this is for. This is for the athlete. It's not for you. And I think a lot of times we can get caught up in thinking, let me make this beautiful template on Excel and let me talk about, these absolutes when it comes to periodization schemes and say, today is, let me look at my Prilipin chart. What's my relative intensity? What are we going to hit today? every single rep is documented in terms of like, okay, I know this athlete is going to hit this at this time. And when you have upwards of 100, 150, 200 athletes in college, you just have to accept that that's not necessarily the case, and that's probably not going to happen. And I think I had more success as time went along when I learned to accept that there is a rubric, there is a menu that I'm going to provide for these athletes, and then from there, we're going to mold it to the day-to-day and empower the athletes through education and understanding to know exactly what they need at a certain time, and not to have to depend on me all the time. I don't want to have to talk at them all the time about their training. I want them to come to me knowing exactly what they need to do. And I think in the professional ranks, this ends up being that same concept of having that conversation with the athlete on that day, understanding that you can provide a ton of information as to what is best for them when it comes to training, specifically with periodization, with movement quality, with education, understanding what this is going to provide for them as far as a training effect goes, and then sort of meet in the middle. I think my experience just in college as far as, evolving and molding my philosophy over time has really helped this transition to the professional ranks to where it isn't that much different. And, it's funny you bring up Tom House. Tom was a huge influence for me at USC because he's somebody that his facility is on campus at USC, and I was able to see him and meet with him on the day-to-day. And these are things we would talk about all the time. And, to see him work with his professional athletes and really have that sort of that very personal, but in Tom's own way, these very personable conversations with these guys to have an understanding of what's best for them. And you're not seeing Tom, sort of walk around with these laminated cards or laminated sheets or cardstock and hanging up sheets. It's about, determining this long-term program for these athletes and educating them on what's best for them and then training from there. And Tom starts his sessions with an hour lecture for these athletes, the parents, kids that come in to give an understanding or to empower them to gain an understanding of what's going to be best for them. Obviously, we all don't have that time on the day-to-day, but it just kind of is a testament to how important the empowerment and the education is for these athletes. So I don't necessarily think it's a big change, but I do think having enough of an open mind over the course of the 3 years at SC and opening myself up to sort of get away from the very regimented in 60 minutes, everybody is doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, and allowing for more freedom opened it up to make each program more for each individual athlete, and not just for me as the strength coach and what I believed is right for everybody.
It's tough, though, when we look at, again, let's just compare Sean's experience. He's coming in, I guess he has about 26 athletes at BU because he's just working with the hockey team. But for you, you're going from kind of a similar idea where you had so many athletes and now you have a lot less. Because Sean with the Ducks, he had minor league, he had prospects, et cetera, et cetera. For you, do you think, in basketball, you got guys making a boatload of money. You have veterans, they're older, they're used to doing things the way they do. How do you approach that? Because that's got to be a lot different from, some of these kids who are, willing to kind of listen to you and, they almost like they have to as well, where it just seems like in all professional sports, there seems to be a little bit more of disarray.
Sure. I think that's the question that always gets brought up in comparison between college and professional ranks. And it's a fear I think we had coming in. And, the fear is that, at this level, you're dealing with, you are dealing with full-blown, adult athletes who are I don't want to say set in their ways, but when you come to them and say, hey, this is the way we want to do things, there is a certain aspect where they have every right to say to you, hey, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've had a lot of success. this is just the way that I want to do it. And that is never a bad thing, and that's where what has been huge is this continuity amongst the staff and the personalities that I think we have, that I think some of you guys know, and knowing Art Horn, and for some of you who know Mike Roncarati and the entire staff, that it is just about a personality of acceptance in terms of meeting in the middle, like I talked about before, where they really respect that we have that mindset. And the way that we're going to make headway and then have success from there, and not just letting, oh yeah, do whatever you want, I'll just hang out over here because you don't want to do what I want you to do. That's not what we want. The other side of the coin is that the quality of care being provided for these athletes, I think, is the utmost. And that, again, is a testament to how important it is for us to be good. And again, that's a novel concept. And of course, we all want to sit back and say, hey, we're a great strength and conditioning coaches, we're great physical therapists, and we want to be great athletic trainers. And amongst all the support staff, everybody wants to be great. And I truly put a ton of credit with the guys that I work with, as we know, from what Art has put together and his reputation and the unbelievable practice that I see day to day from Mike Roncarati. It's the skill set that we're bringing to the table is an easy sell for these athletes because they're feeling things and seeing improvements that they may or may not have seen before. And that becomes an easy sell. And what we talk about a lot, and I think I hear Mike say a lot, is show them, show them maybe a limitation, explain why that may be a limitation or why that may be a negative thing, and then provide some sort of intervention. And then as we talk about sort of a test retest, and then show them the benefit, the subsequent benefit that happened from that intervention. And the problem I think sometimes we run into is that not everybody can do that. And it speaks to where the quality needs to be when it comes to not only strength and conditioning, but physical therapy and athletic training as well, is if you're not, this may sound a little blunt, but if you're not good enough, then that buy-in may not come, especially in the professional ranks. In college, I think you can get away with it a little bit more because, like you said, these kids sort of have to do this. You block off this 60 minutes of time that coach is going to say, you are going to the weight room and you have to be involved in strength and conditioning. Whatever coach says goes, or there'll be a penalty. That, of course, doesn't work in professional sports. So if you're not bringing a high level of skill in your scope of practice, whether rehab or performance, then they're not going to buy in. So I think combine that amongst our staff, combine that skill with our personalities and that openness to have these conversations with these guys. We've seen that we really get that respect, and we have them seeking us out after just a short amount of time, which I think is a really cool thing.
That's very cool, and I know it's going to be fun to watch, and hopefully we'll get you back on after maybe after the season, and we'll talk. We'll just get you guys on separately for your own shows, and just we'll talk more about what you're doing and some of the results that you have. So, Chris, good luck, congratulations, and thank you so much for coming on and kind of talking about your short experience so far with the Atlanta Hawks.
Awesome, thanks, Anthony. We'll talk soon, man.
Hi, this is Stefan Underwood for The Art of Coaching with Exos, and this week we are discussing part 2 of 3 on fostering a strong coach-athlete relationship. Working on the premise that a coach is only an expert with an invitation from the athlete, we know that all your knowledge in the act of coaching does not matter if the right relationship is not established. In the last episode, I discussed the role that motivation through education plays in fostering this relationship. On this episode, I'm going to discuss the role of feedback, specifically talking about different manners of timing your feedback. Before even discussing the do's of feedback, I want to call out one very large don't. It is quite common that I'll see a coach working with an athlete and following a rep provide feedback for the next rep or set. When the athlete performs the movement again, the coach automatically exudes enthusiasm, proclaiming, "Good, much better," when in actuality, it looked exactly like the last rep. Not only does this fail to correct the movement, but more importantly, it can damage the relationship with the athlete because that coach just lied to the athlete. We need to give athletes credit. They will often feel when a rep is different and be able to tell when it feels more right or more wrong. We help with fine-tuning, but they will likely feel it was the exact same as the movement before it. If they know we lied, trust is diminished. If the athlete isn't getting the movement right away, that's okay. Give them time to get a feel for it. Continue to guide them. Try different cues. Provide more demos or the proper technique, but do not lie to them and tell them they have it if they don't. Now, on to the do's of feedback. One of my colleagues, Nicole Rodriguez, uses the analogy of bowling when it comes to giving feedback. If I'm learning to bowl, you may put the guards up in the gutter to help keep on track, but you still let me do the bowling. This is like coaching. It is our goal to provide some left and right boundaries, but you are not trying to bowl for your athletes. The best learning comes when the athlete figures things out for themselves. Creating an environment that truly promotes motor learning will be noticed by the athlete, and this will lead to an exceptional coach-athlete relationship. Not to mention that feedback is one of the largest keys to the art of coaching. Without feedback, the coach is providing instruction with no correction or follow-up. This is akin to a DVD player and the latest exercise video. So the question is, what are some of the different methods of delivering feedback? With respect to timing of your feedback, there are 4 methods I'd like to discuss. First is bandwidth. This refers to feedback that is given when errors reach a limit or outside the normal bandwidth. This is the analogy of bowling I previously mentioned. Second is summary or average, where feedback is given after a number of trials and the average errors have been identified. This is beneficial to remind us to allow some reps without feedback to let the athlete have a chance to feel the movement and self-correct. If you're a coach like me who knows you have a tendency to say more as opposed to less and run the risk of overcoaching, timing your feedback in this manner is a great tool to keep yourself in check. Third is fading feedback, where the feedback is given more frequently earlier on in the session, think education first, and then diminishes or fades throughout the session, so allows you to end on feel and help an athlete get out of their own way and not overanalyze. Sometimes the most powerful coaching cue following a good rep can be, could you feel that? Now recreate that feeling. The final type, though, is perhaps my favorite when working especially with high-level athletes. This type of feedback is self-selected. Feedback is given to the athlete at their request. This reminds us as coaches to ask before telling. Remember from the last episode the importance of autonomy. Involving the athlete in the process is big. When they know it is good or know it is bad is not when the experienced athlete needs help. It's when they're unsure or if there's a disconnect between the coach and athlete opinions. I was in Arizona earlier this year and got to watch a training session at the World Athletic Center, home of some of the best coaches in the business. It was incredibly powerful to watch a discus thrower have a couple subpar throws in a row, and following the second poor throw, her coach's only words were, "Do you need anything from me?" The athlete shook her head, focused, and took her rest. Inside a couple short reps, she was throwing incredibly well. While her coach didn't say much in that moment, that example really shows that true coaching is all about the relationship between athlete and coach. Hopefully this provides a few ideas on how to time your feedback for the athletes you work with. Ultimately, it is this dialogue and dance between you and the athlete that begins to define the relationship you have. That is why timing of feedback can be one of the most powerful tools for holding on to the proverbial invitation from the athlete. In the next episode, our final segment, we'll be discussing the creation of the right culture through a seamless integration between specialists. Athletes recognize culture and know the types of places they want to train. This is one of the biggest pieces in earning that invitation in the first place. For more information about Exos education, please visit us at www.teamexos.com/education.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Business of Fitness segment here on the Strength Coach Podcast, sponsored by Results Fitness University at resultsfitnessuniversity.com for all your fitness business needs. I just made that up on the spot. I'm Alan Cosgrove, the co-owner of Results Fitness and Results Fitness University. And this week's episode is about finding out your 3 vital functions. So the analogy is, I was in the hospital years ago having my transplant, and it's a fairly complicated procedure. But every time the doctors came in, they would check a couple of things: blood pressure, temperature, and heart rate. These are your vital functions. If these collapse, it doesn't matter what stage cancer's in. They've got something bigger to deal with, right? So they're always looking at what they call your vital functions, like respiration, blood pressure, etc., right? In business, that's the same way. You can't do everything. And over the years, you start looking at studies of effective people, and if you're studying successful people as we do, you start realizing that most CEOs and most high producers will do three things, right? They do three things better than everybody else, right? Or three things only in their company, and they delegate the rest. So, for example, at Results Fitness University, my three vital functions are: number one is to provide customer service and support to all our coaching members. Everybody that's in our coaching group, I talk every day we have a private forum. I talk to them. I do phone calls. We do meetings. My number one function is to support everything that they need in terms of their education and customer service. Number two is what we call gifting. If you've been listening to this segment before, that stands for get in front of them. That's our key marketing tool, regardless of what you're doing. Get in front of them. So my second vital function is to present throughout the year to our target audience to grow the Results Fitness University side of the company, Results Fitness University list and Results Fitness University membership, to get people to invest in products or to attend one of our live events. And obviously the Business of Fitness segment here is part of that. That's why we do that. And lastly, we wrote it down as the idea generator. My goal is to consume information in the form of research books, my colleagues that I meet throughout my seminar tour throughout the year, and filter those ideas and sort of put them in a usable form to extract and land upon what we call game-changing ideas for Results Fitness and Results Fitness University. So that could be a training tool. I've spoken at length that the sandbag, the DVRT sandbag, changed a lot of what we were doing when we added that in. But it can also be marketing ideas. It can also be a business idea that I see from a business seminar or something else I'm doing. So my big three is provide customer service and support to our coaching group, gift and present to our target market and grow the business, and be an idea generator for both companies, for Results Fitness and Results Fitness University. If it doesn't fall into my three vital functions, I'm not doing it. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't get done. It means we have to build systems for that stuff to get done. Like you've got to do Facebook now. I don't do it for the company. We have staff that do it. So we build systems on how to do it. We delegate, and then we get back to what we call rocking the mic, right? So the idea is you're Bruce Springsteen and you're at Madison Square Garden. The whole show needs to be figured out as to where people are going to be laid out, where the stage is going to be, where the speakers are, where the band is. Bruce isn't doing that, right? Bruce is not doing that. They've built the systems with him and his organization, his support staff. The team will set it up. The band knows where they're supposed to be. They know the set list. So the systems have been built. They've delegated, and he's just going to rock the mic. And that's what you got to do as a gym owner. You got to do the high level activities. So do it your best and stay in the zones where you're most valuable to the company. That's it for this week, guys. So make sure to visit resultsfitnessuniversity.com and learn about everything we got coming up. And I will talk to you guys next time.
Welcome to the Functional Movement Systems segment on the Strength Coach podcast. My name's Brad Hartman, and today I will be talking to you about the jump rope. Obviously, the jump rope is one piece of equipment that I feel a lot of people use already. However, I'm going to cover some basic information, whether you're beginning with it, maybe an intermediate, and at the same time, throughout this segment, if you're an expert, maybe hopefully you can pick up on some extra tips and implement it within your training program. So first of all, I kind of want to explain why, or maybe some of the benefits that are associated with the jump rope. First of all, it doesn't impact your joints as compared to running. You have to develop some good rhythm and speed. And what Gray always says, it's a self-limiting activity. So one thing that we look at the jump rope, and when we train with it, we have to maintain our posture, good alignment, good rhythm, and good timing. So anytime we start to lose any of those, it's going to stop because we're going to fault by our technique and have the jump rope maybe not keep on turning. So in a way, it's self-limiting because once you stop turning the jump rope, you're done with the exercise. It can be used again for training and cardio. And at the same time, 12 minutes or about 12 minutes of jump rope is about the same cardio benefits as a 30-minute jog. And last but not least, it can be performed anywhere. It's a really versatile tool that you can take with travel. You can do it at home or even in the gym. So again, here is a list of some of the training benefits that are associated with it. You're going to work your anaerobic capacity, your speed, quickness, agility, power, balance, coordination, rhythm, concentration. And at the same time, I think this is one oversight that people don't account for, but you're working for foot, ankle, wrist, strength and speed. And at the same time, it relates to a lot of different sports and making those training benefits carry over into whether you're doing golf, hockey, baseball, football. It is one tool that applies to a wide variety of different sports. So I'm going to cover over some basic things that you may need to know when you're first beginning a jump rope program or you're just starting to use the tool for the first time. One of the most common questions that I get is, what is the basic measurement for the jump rope? Well, first of all, you're going to step in the middle of the jump rope, take both handles and place them or grab them with one hand. Okay? So when you grab the handles with one hand, the height of the jump rope should be at about armpit level. If you want to make the jump rope easier, then you simply make the handles longer so they go up. And at the same time, if you want to make it more challenging, you just shorten the rope. Now, it's not going to affect the speed so much, but where it's going to challenge is your skill of jumping rope. Another thing I get, especially if you have clients that are overweight and one of their goals is for weight loss, and obviously you have to implement cardio, and say they may not want to do elliptical or treadmill or running hills, the jump rope is also another good tool. But at the same time, they may not know how to jump rope or have that rhythm or skill to jump over the rope with a handle in each hand. The one thing is we got to work on their jumping technique and their skill technique. And one really easy way to do that is to simply put both handles in the same hand and spin the jump rope to the side. Okay? So it limits the amount they have for air. And at the same time, they just need to time their jump when the rope hits the floor. So having both handles in the same hand and spinning it to the side is one really easy way to implement a jump rope training program for someone who is starting out. All right, so looking at different foot techniques, obviously we have some ones that are covered for the basic and at the same time the expert level. So when first starting out, and I think these two patterns a lot of people know, it's just your basic bounce step. You have both feet together and you're spinning the rope for every jump. Then at the same time, you have the alternate foot stance. Okay, so the first spin, your right foot is in contact with the ground. The next spin, your left foot is in contact with the ground. If we look at the functional movement screen and you want to improve upon your functional patterns, such as the deep squat, the hurdle step, and the inline lunge, well, you can simply work those with the jump rope as well. So for the deep squat, you would simply just have a squat stance and you just continue to turn the rope using that stance. With the hurdle step, it's going to be a little bit different than your alternate foot step. You're simply going to just keep on bouncing on your one leg, whether it's right or left. And then same with the inline lunge. You're going to have your right foot forward and your left foot back. Continue to jump. And then once you get fatigued, check your other side with the left foot forward and the right foot back. So again, both with the hurdle step and inline lunge, if you find that there is a difference between the left and right sides of your body, make sure you work on that more challenging side to create some balance within those patterns within the jump rope. Okay, so those are some basic footwork that you can do as a beginner and at the same time improve your functional movement stream. Now, if you're an expert and you can turn the rope pretty good, some other steps you may want to try are the side straddle jump. So the first jump, you start with your feet together. And then the next jump, you have your feet shoulder width apart. And you just alternate that pattern back and forth every time the rope goes through. The forward straddle jump, you're simply going to start with your right foot forward, your left foot back. And then on the next turn, you switch your feet. So your left foot forward and your right foot's back. And again, you would just continue doing that pattern until fatigued. You have the skier jump, which is simply both feet together and you're jumping side to side. The bell jump is kind of reciprocal of that. Your feet are together and you're jumping forward and backwards. The next one that's pretty good is the twister jump. So you're going to stand with your feet together, and every time the rope turns, you're just simply turning your feet to the left and to the right. And last but not least, we have two more that are pretty common jumps that anyone can really use and develop. The first one is the power jump. So every time the rope turns under, you jump and making sure that it passes through twice. Okay? So you really have to develop a high jump and quick hands in order to do that. And last but not least, and this is another quick move that you can do, is the side swing. So every time you jump rope through and put your hands to one side and then open it back up on the next jump, you should be able to complete that. So again, the last two are kind of looking at more or less power and speed and timing specifically within the jump rope. So now that we've covered some basics of why we do it, the benefits to doing it, some beginning tips and expert tips, let's go and talk about a little bit of programming. So if you're unfamiliar of where to begin, the first thing you need to do are set baselines. And what you need to record are basically the type. So what kind of foot stance are you working? The number of sets that you do, the amount of time you put into it for each set, the rest between each set, and the number of turns. Okay? So if you can record those 5 when starting out jump rope, those are good baselines to sit. So looking at some goals that we want to make sure you have enough stamina and technique down to really start to excel in the jump rope. Your first goal, you should be able to get about 140 beats per minute and do that for 5 minutes. Okay? The second goal is maintain that 140 beats per minute and do it for 10 minutes. And I'm telling you, that will smoke you. Okay? Your third goal is now looking at bumping up those beats per minute to either 180 or 200. And again, challenging yourself to do it for 5 to 10 minutes. If you can get those 4 goals, now you're just in maintenance phase, okay? And at the same time, since I told you just before, you should do those 5 recordings, you should know your 30-second and 60-second max. Always just check in and make sure you have enough competency within your jump rope. So at any point you start losing or dropping those numbers down from the 30 to 60, 60 seconds of your knowing your max, then again, you just go back and address and start to train the 180 or 200 beats per minute for 5 to 10 minutes to make sure you get back to your goal or your maintenance phase. And at the same time, let's just talk a little bit about how it can challenge you anaerobically and aerobically. Obviously, aerobically, you want to do it for 5 to 10 minutes and make sure you maintain that speed for that amount of time. And now anaerobically, it can be used for interval training. So you can do it for 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or 2 minutes on with 30 seconds off. So when we're talking about using it in interval training, just make note that make sure whatever you do for 30 seconds, you have enough for a sufficient rest break. And again, if you continue to do it and get really well at it, you can do it for 2 minutes and have a 30-second break. And again, you can do that for maybe 5, 6, 10 sets, or either superset it in. So now to kind of wrap up this segment on the jump rope, let's just talk about some resources that you can use to educate yourself a little bit about it and maybe where to get the best jump ropes. So first of all, Gray has a book called Athletic Body and Balance, and it is a really good book on basic training for everyone, essentially. But he does cover some specifics to the jump rope within this book. Again, it is a self-limiting exercise. And within the book, you're looking at pages 125 to 130, and again, 165 to 172. Another resource you can use is functionalmovement.com. We have an exercise library that does have these different jump rope foot techniques within there. So if you're more of a visual learner, then going to the website would be a good resource for you to use. Looking at Athletic Body and Balance, there's a pretty neat little quick program that you can use in here, and it's called the Buddy Lee 5-minute program. And it has about 4 different steps broken down in reps of 25 and 50. So if you feel like you want to do 2 sets of 5-minute jump rope, then that would be really good to cover your cardiovascular benefits. And at the same time, there's really cool YouTube clips by this guy, but Buddy Lee at BuddyLeeJumpRopes.com if you want to really look into it and see how good of jump roping can be. He's an exciting person to watch and see how he uses the jump rope. All right. Last but not least, if you want to pick up some jump ropes, I'd advise go performbetter.com. If you're just getting into it and don't want to spend money, or you're a student on a budget, then they have some lower end models of their own that work really well. And at the same time, if you feel like you're an expert in it and you want a high quality, long lasting jump rope, then you want to start looking at the Buddy Lee jump ropes, because they're by far the best built jump ropes that I've seen, especially the way you use them and how long they last. So again, if you want to look at more resources we have within our library, articles, content, go to functionalmovement.com. There's a lot of good information there about training and jump rope specific.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 172 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Special thanks to Chris Porter, Aaron McGurr, and the folks over at Perform Better. You can check them out at performbetter.com for all their products and info on their educational seminars. Thanks to Coach Boyle, Sean Skahan, and Chris Chase for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning and performance enhancement. Alan Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Brad Hartman and Functional Movement Systems. Check them out at functionalmovement.com. Stefan Underwood for his insights into the art of coaching with Exos. Check them out at teamexos.com/education. Audible.com is giving Strength Coach Podcast listeners a special offer to download your free audiobook. Go to freebookfromant.com. Again, that's freebookfromant.com for your free audiobook. And of course, remember you can join strengthcoach.com and have access to the site for just $1. 3 days, just $1 to access that offer. Go to strengthcoach.com, click the Join Now button to get started on your trial. My name's Anthony Renna, and you can reach me at strengthcoachpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.